Hi, I'm Greg Hunter. This is the weekly news wrap up, the WNW 265 for December 23rd, 2016. Merry Christmas. I've always been one to say Merry Christmas, even if somebody says Happy Holidays. I've always said Merry Christmas, but it's all the sweeter this year with Donald Trump as the president-elect of the United States. So I got a lot to go into. I just want to give you my thoughts about what's going on, see if I can spot a few trends for you. Aleppo, here we have these are the escape vehicles right here. Militants, it says in the headline here, militants were destroying the escape vehicles for the civilians and wounded. But if you look in the story here, it says that civilians and rebel fighters await evacuation in freezing temperatures. So there are rebel fighters and then militants. Come on, folks. And this is the kind of reporting that they keep doing over and over again on the story of Syria. It's ISIS. There's no Free Syrian Army. I think they killed a lot of the Al-Qaeda and they turned them into ISIS. The militants, that's ISIS. ISIS, the quote-unquote militants, destroyed the escape buses. I mean, these people are brutal. I mean, here's a cartoon, and it's not funny, but it's a cartoon that kind of sums up the whole thing of Aleppo. You know, it says, the government's in control, and, you can go on with your lives. I mean, and it's completely, destroyed in rubble. It is. It's completely destroyed. There was some drone video not long ago of ISIS. I should say, the Aleppo, which ISIS and the Syrian soldiers were fighting, and it was just there. There wasn't a window with a piece of glass in it. I mean, it's just completely destroyed. It was short of a nuclear blast. I mean, Aleppo is just one big, some buildings that look like buildings and piles of bricks everywhere. So but the government's in control. This is why this attacker killed a Russian foreign ambassador in Turkey at 22 years old. He guarded Erdogan. He was on the detail to guard Erdogan. Of course, he's screaming Allah Akbar, which they don't really talk about in the newspaper. That's right next to another terrorist attack in Germany. The headline is, deadly day in Turkey and terrorist attacks, both of them. Some people are thinking that this is CIA, that this guy, who got killed, 22 years old, but he was somebody who guarded Erdogan. Putin is out saying that they're going to do an investigation, and he was basically alluding to the fact that it was a state-sponsored job, not just one guy who was upset of the things that happened in Syria. That Aleppo is going. He's talking about remember Aleppo and that kind of thing. And I don't know what's going on there. Putin did say that they were. He thinks that the reason why his ambassador was murdered by a terrorist is because some powers, and it could be the U.S., it could be NATO, it could be something like that, seeing Turkey and Russia getting closer together. This is after. I mean, Putin is doing everything he can to try to make nice with Turkey, even after Turkey said they were, going to go in and remove Assad. Not going to happen. After Turkey shot down a Russian jet, and now one of their ambassadors gets shot in the back by somebody who reportedly guarded Erdogan, the prime minister of Turkey. And Putin says, they're doing an investigation together, Turkey and Russia together. And so I don't know. It seems like they're diametrically opposed in Syria. Turkey, they want Assad out. They were helping the ISIS, the rebels, and I don't know. Maybe they can work something out there. They were trying to work out a peace deal, and the United States was not involved between Turkey and Syria and Russia, and we weren't nowhere to be found in this equation. So. Listen, the big trends here is that the Syria thing is evidently going to continue. That this truck attack in Berlin, of course, this is like Nice, France, Trump said, listen, I was 100% right about the terrorists, and it's hard to argue when you see these terrorists, these Islamic terrorists, get in a truck just like Nice, just like they were told to do. On the internet and run over people and thinking that's a good idea to kill as many and injure and kill as many as they can. And this is going to make things very hard for the ruling class in places like Germany. Angela Merkel, she's going to have her work cut out for her. Also in France, they're trying to say that one mayor over there, because they're talking about the white replacement, by the Muslims, which is basically what's happening, that he's going to be charged with a hate crime, just like Geert Wilders, in Holland, or I should say Brussels. He was tried for a crime. They have First Amendment laws there. He got proven guilty, but got no punishment. And he's saying that Merkel has blood on her hands because of this truck thing. And this is outrageous. Then the guy we find out that the intelligence community there in Germany was tracking the guy. He didn't have a passport. This is what Trump means about extreme vetting, and that you can't vet these people. Even Hillary Clinton in her emails said they couldn't vet these Muslim refugees. Thank you, WikiLeaks, for yet another disclosure of what's going on. Turkey also bans Twitter because a couple of their soldiers were lit on fire. And, Turkey, Facebook and YouTube thought it would be a good idea to allow these videos to post. If you're a, quote, fake news site, in other words, if you have any disagreement with the legacy media, you're a fake news site, but yet a couple of Turkish soldiers being set on fire, yeah, that's good programming. Let's let that go on. And here the headline is, Turkey bans Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube after ISIS savages upload video of themselves burning 2 soldiers alive in a sick execution. I think that also YouTube and I believe Facebook and somebody else also being sued because they aided and abetted, Muslim terrorists in the Pulse nightclub shooting. So, I don't understand. Fake news, everybody's worried about it, but helping terrorists and showing pictures of soldiers being burned alive. This is just before they got burned, folks. They got chains on them. I don't know if you can see it very well. They got chains on them, and they're sitting there. They ended up dying, and they ended up putting this video, on the streaming on these platforms. But yet fake news, that's a real problem. But showing a couple of soldiers being burned alive, yeah, not a problem. That's just solid programming. It's just pretty much outrageous. But the big uptrend, I think, is just like the anti-nationalism, the global powers, the no borders people, the New World Order people have flooded Europe with all these Muslim immigrants, and the crazy ones can't be vetted. And you can't vet them. James Comey was talking about how you can't vet people against information that you don't have. There's no like this. The guy in the killer in Germany didn't have a passport, didn't have information, but the security forces knew about him. He was under surveillance, and he still did this horrible act and is on the loose, armed and dangerous. But the long-term outcome for this are upheaval elections like Donald Trump, like Brexit. Marine Le Pen is going to be running for president of France. Hollande has 4%. He's not running because his popularity is down to, I think, 4%. Angela Merkel's popularity has to be plummeting after allowing all these Muslim extremists, along with the other Muslim refugees in the country without any kind of vetting whatsoever. Now they got a huge monster problem that's flowing over Europe. And, with the rapes and the sexual assaults, and now, yet another guy in a big truck mowing people down and murdering people and injuring many others. And so these people in power are going to be voted out of power. They're just going to be gone. Unless they try to rig the election, but I think the elections are so overwhelmingly against the powers that be in this, borderless New World Order, we hate little people world, that the big trend is that. I wanted to bring up something else that I wanted to talk about, and this is really important. It's about Donald Trump's cabinet positions. And this is a headline on the failing Washington Post. This is why all these legacy media companies, I've said it before, I'll say it again, the layoffs in 2017 are going to be stunning. New York Times reported last week they're going to lease out 8 floors. All of a sudden, they don't need 8 floors of people at the New York Times. Yeah, that's growth for you. Here's the headline, and they pass this off as a news story, and they wonder why they're failing. Donald Trump is holding a government casting call. He's seeking, quote unquote, the look. This is Washington Post, 12/22. And so their picture, and they're passing this off as a bona fide news story. Not op-ed, nothing like that. And they're basically showing, Trump and General Mattis, Mad Dog Mattis, and, oh yeah, they want him to look like Patton. Because Trump made some comment like he's the closest thing we have to Patton, who was a brilliant general. Forget the way he looks. Patton was a brilliant, war-winning general. And that's who he's comparing Mattis to, not his look. But this is the trivial that they're passing off, the trite, the mean-spirited analysis, the unfair analysis, oh yeah, let's see here. Let's just go ahead and get that out there. This is the Oxford Dictionary definition. Information, especially of a biased, misleading nature, used to promote a particular political cause or point of view. Yes, propaganda. Yes, the propaganda media, the legacy media, the dying propaganda legacy media. And here's what the story says. I just want to read this to you. This is some of it. It's so unfair. They went down the line of his picks like these people are stooges and boobs and idiots. And I want to go into more of that in just a minute. Donald Trump believes that those who aspire to their most visible spots in his administration should not just be able to do the job, but also look the part. Given Trump's own background as a master brander, a showman who ran beauty pageants as a sideline, he's a worth $11 billion. He's built buildings and properties all over the world, but he's just a beauty pageant guy. It was probably inevitable that he would be looking beyond their resumes for a certain aesthetic in his supporting players. Now, I don't know about you folks, but I've had many job interviews in broadcasting. I never went on a job interview without having my shoes shined, without having my hair cut, without having a nice high and tight haircut and shaved. Yes, I look good on an interview. Are you crazy? Would you not look good on an interview? Do you want to look like a beach bum slob, like the character in Why Him, the new movie? Would you like to have that kind of a person? No, you're going to make your best appearance. And then here on those kind of skin-deep standards, this is more from the Washington Post, those kind of skin-deep standards help make Trump's success as a reality television star and international brand. But his critics say they are worrisome in the Oval Office, as if he's picking a bunch of just pretty boob people that are stupid and don't know anything. Outrageous. This is what they're passing off as news. This is a political news story. This isn't even marked op-ed. This is in the Washington Post. How mean-spirited, how misleading, how absolutely wrong. And to thought shape you into thinking Trump is putting together just a cabinet of boobs. Mike Pence, a very successful governor. Yes, he's a nice-looking man, but he's a successful governor. Tillerson, who is going to be Secretary of State, I think this is a good idea, folks. He ran ExxonMobil. He's going to be 65 years old. He's going to hit retirement age. He ran ExxonMobil. Reince Priebus, who's going to be his chief of staff. That's arguably the most powerful man, third most powerful man in the White House. He helped get him elected, knows all kinds of Republicans, knows all kinds of Democrats as well. But I just wanted, this is from USA Today. Actually, this is pretty good, folks. Talks about his cabinet. And it shows about all of his, cabinet. Like Dr. Ben Carson is in his cabinet. I mean, there are some, he's a brilliant neurosurgeon. This is supposed to be some boob. These people are supposed to be some idiots because they're successful. And there's many billionaires like Wilbur Ross. Let me tell you something about billionaires taking a job like this. Here's Wilbur Ross. Yeah, that's a Hollywood-looking figure, right? Wilbur Ross? Huh? Hold on, let me get in there with you. There you go. There, Wilbur. Yeah, that's a guy right out of the Hollywood movies, right? He's worth billions of dollars. I got news for you. Most of these people don't need a $350,000 a year job. They don't. And listen, he's going to make some mistakes, but he's putting together a team of very powerful people. And let me just bring in a couple of things. Number one, he's hiring Goldman Sachs' Steve Mnuchin. This is Steve Mnuchin at Treasury. Yes, he's at Goldman Sachs. Yes, this guy right here, Steve Mnuchin. And you know, I was listening to Catherine Austin Fitts and Dr. Joseph P. Farrell talking about the cabinet, and they're not worried about that. And here is why they're not worried about this. They're not worried about it because, but they're a little worried that Goldman might be quote unquote, pigs. They might try to cash a paycheck, but it's Goldman Sachs. But according to Farrell and Catherine Austin Fitts, who was the assistant housing secretary under Bush 41, she managed $300 billion portfolio of real estate, basically. She's goes around the world to advise people as a money manager, a money advisor, a financial advisor. She's a smart woman, knows big people and knows about big money. And Dr. Farrell also on her show talking about saying that, and this was their premise. Now listen, you should go on Solari.com. I'm going to give you the very minimal cleft notes to this. There's a lot of great information. It was about an hour and a half or 2 hour talk, but this is basically the upside of this. This is what the uptake. And that was basically they moved trillions of dollars out of the country. Catherine Austin Fitts talks about a financial coup d'etat, and Trump is smart enough to say, who did that? It would be part of that was Goldman Sachs. He's going to hire the people that moved the money out of the country to move it back in. Now, we're talking about $2.5 trillion, or as Trump said in one of his speeches, it may be twice that much, maybe $5 trillion. He's talking about getting people and institutions. You can't just, get some checks and have the companies put a check in the mail and mail it over to their bank. This is going to be some big money moving back into the country. So he's hiring Goldman Sachs to do it. I hope it works out. And I hope but that's his idea. And I hope they don't act like pigs. But that's what's going on. And it takes big institutions and money people to bring this kind of money back into the country. This is outrageous. Democrats never try this. But how are you going to kickstart the economy? Well, you need capital. How are you going to kickstart a capitalistic economy? Bring back the capital. That's what's going to happen. Rising rates are going to also help that bring back the capital as well. But that's what's going on right there. And here's another thing that I wanted to let you know, to talk to you about, the generals. Now, you're talking about Mattis, General Mattis. Mattis is the head of the Department of Defense. He's the head of the Pentagon. He's the Secretary of Defense. So he controls the Pentagon. James Mattis, Mad Dog Mattis. He was the guy that Trump said he's the closest thing we have to General Patton. So, he who controls the Pentagon and the Secretary of Defense, a former Marine general, is going to be in control of he's going to be the Secretary of Defense. He's going to control the Pentagon. And whoever controls the Pentagon controls the country. I mean, I know if you look back in history and, what happened to JFK, remember what happened to JFK? He had the Bay of Pigs. The Pentagon wanted him to allow the U.S. Navy to provide cover, and he didn't, and you had a disaster with the Bay of Pigs because they were going to, have a counter coup, a counter revolution to, the folks down there in Cuba and Castro. And, I wonder if Kennedy made a mistake because we almost went to nuclear war over what happened after that. The Russians were going to put nuclear weapons on Cuba, basically in Cuba, and, we almost got into a nuclear war. We drew the line and said, hey, listen, you're not going to come in there. So I wonder if Kennedy made a mistake. So he did not have the Pentagon behind him, but Trump put General Mattis in as the head of the Secretary of Defense. And if you look right over here, here is another a Marine General, John Kelly, another four-star Marine General, John Kelly. Now, John Kelly is going to take over Homeland Security. Are you guys seeing what I'm seeing? That you have a Marine General over here, Mattis, the head of the Secretary of Defense. And then you have another general here, the head of Homeland Security. I'm sorry, I'm not doing a very good job. John Kelly. Marine generals, both of them Marine generals. Marine generals, that's a small universe, wouldn't you think? Marine, four-star generals, small universe. That's a very small universe. And don't you think they know each other? So you have a Marine general the head of the Secretary of State, the head of the Pentagon, basically. And then you have the Marine general who is taking over Homeland Security. You think Trump's getting ready for a war, an internal war? Now, maybe not a civil war type thing, but do you think he's getting ready for war by appointing generals? You think he's getting ready for some rough stuff going on? And these people are in his corner. You hear about the CIA. Woe be the CIA if they come against full-blown against the Pentagon. If we get down to, now we know it's the Pentagon, which I've been telling you, in Syria, you had the Pentagon, which is the Army, the Department of Defense, against the CIA in Syria. And what just happened in Syria? Aleppo fell. Who was backing the rebels, the ISIS rebels? That was CIA. Who was helping out Syria and Assad and the Russians? That would be the Pentagon. That story was broken by Seymour Hersh, a stellar reporter, had it backed up too. So you have internal fighting inside the government. 2 Marine generals, one basically in charge of the Pentagon, one in charge of Homeland Security. He's getting ready for war. I'll show you something else that I found very interesting about all this. Very interesting. And I think a lot of these people are not, maybe they're pretty, I don't know, I mean, this is Mitch McConnell's wife, Elaine Chao. But there are some pretty people, but she's got deep government experience and she's smart. And she's going to be, taking care of the Department of Transportation. And so why wouldn't you want competent people that make a nice appearance? These are all competent people. Some of them multimillionaires, some of them billionaires. They're not going to be bribed. I think they see the country swirling down a rat hole. But I wanted to just point out this to you. One really quick thing that I thought was really, really interesting. White House counsel. Let's just look at White House counsel. This guy right here. He's let me get that in there. There, focus it for me. Dan, come on, baby. Let me get in there. There you go. There we go. There. I can just hold it still. Anyway, his name is Dan McGahn. Don McGahn. Don McGahn is the, let's read this together here. Don McGahn is the former chairman of the Federal Election Commission. Oh, of all the lawyers that Donald Trump knows, because he's been sued hundreds of times and he's won, 80-90% of the cases, Don McGahn, former chairman of the Federal Election Commission. Why do you think Donald Trump would like to have a former FEC lawyer, actually chief, a former head of the federal election, former chairman of the Federal Election Commission? Why do you think he'd like to have him as his chief counsel, as his White House counsel? You think it's because he's going to go after all this voter and election fraud? I mean, here we have, Project Veritas, as I've been telling you before. They caught on camera that basically the DNC and through Hillary Clinton and the DNC were paying them to rig the elections, to have fraud, to have voter fraud and election fraud. That Obama was on the air telling illegal aliens to vote. And, when you vote, you're really a citizen when you vote. And don't worry, if you vote illegally, we won't prosecute you. And then we find out from Jill Stein, thank you, Jill Stein, for doing the recount, that last-ditch effort. And, some of the key states like Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and Michigan. And what did we find out there? Well, Donald Trump got more votes. And also we found out, at least in Wayne County in Detroit, that there was tons of election and voter fraud. They, so much corruption, they couldn't count the votes. They had more people who voted than they have registered to vote. The same people voted numerous times. Yes, fraud, and more fraud in Wayne County, democratically controlled Wayne County in the city, which is also the place where the city of Detroit is. And Donald Trump still won, even though they were committing all kinds of fraud and voter fraud and election fraud. Donald Trump still won. So do you think that maybe that we're going to, with this guy right here, with Don McGahn, do you think, here we go. Do you think with a former chairman of the Federal Election Commission, I'm not doing a very good job holding this up. Do you think with Don McGahn, the former chairman of the Federal Election Commission, as a White House counsel with all the lawyers Donald Trump could have picked, do you think he's sending a message that he's going to go after this voter fraud? Now, Donald Trump's not going to tell you what he's going to do. He said that. And I agree with him. He said, why would I give away all my plans before I do them? That's stupid. That's a dumb move. He's absolutely right. That is a dumb move. That is a dumb move. Now, after he starts initiating policy, he's got to tell people what his policies are. But I think that's a big tip-off. Listen, all the people that Donald Trump is getting on here, you may or may not like them politically. You may or may like how much money they have, but none of them are slow-mos. They're not stupid. And yes, some of them are quite attractive, and some of them are not. But they're all very competent. He doesn't have people who are losers in his cabinet. He doesn't. He doesn't have people that are stupid and losers in his cabinet. He has some of the most brilliant people, around in his cabinet. So the long-term trend for that is, I think, Donald Trump is going to go to war. That's why he put a couple of Marine generals in a couple of key positions for the Pentagon and also for Homeland Security. And I think he's going to go after the voter fraud. It's massive fraud, along with all the illegal immigration and even the legal immigration, where they're dumping all these Syrian refugees that they cannot vet, according to the FBI and even Hillary Clinton. And so he's going to be going. He's got a big battle going. He's preparing for battle. He's not going to tell you that, but he's preparing for a battle. One of the things I wanted to bring out to you, I mean, last week I said that I brought this little piece of paper up about the 10-year Treasury at 2.60, and it was 1.60, back in July. Actually, earlier it was, I think the low for the year is 1.36. It's almost double now. It's 2.55% for the 10-year Treasury. You have 30-year mortgage rates going to about 4.3% on average. And they're already fretting about the housing market. And we're talking about a 4% interest rate. I mean, I think somewhere in the middle, the norm, if you take a look at the average over the last 30 or 40 years, you'd probably come up with a 6 or 7% 30-year mortgage rate, and it's still 4.3%. It's gone up to 4.3%, and already the people in the housing market are fretting. They're freaking out. That's how fragile the economy is. You know things are bad, and I held this up during the Michael Pinto interview. Wasn't that a great interview with Michael Pinto? He's talking, let's see if his prediction is true. He's talking about that the first or second trading day, people are going to sell, and they're going to get a lower capital gains rate. I mean, we had all-time high. Remember in the 70s, we had an all-time high in the 70s. It hit 1,000 points, and then off that, just boom. For months after that, it just went straight, just tumbled. It just tumbled. Here's a Bloomberg a chart, and this is the bull market ends. This is what they're saying, and the trend down since 1981. And if you look at this chart, from 1981, you just see it's a clear trend line all the way down until you get down to here. And when you get down to here, you see it vaulting higher, vaulting above that trend line pretty significantly, pretty high. And, that's the 2.5%. And, the Fed says we're raising rates higher. And this right here, saying it's clearly broken this trend line. And if you look at that little piece, that little thing right there on a one-year chart, here is July right here in the middle. July, 1.36%. Here is last year. And here it is higher than it's been in a while. For 30-year mortgage, which is the 10-year, sets up 10-year, 30-year mortgage is higher than it's been in, 2 years, since 2014. But that's what that little blip up looks like. This is what it looks like on a year basis. That's a huge move. And if there's one thing that can knock Donald Trump out of the box and put a hurting on his plans, that's the rising interest rates. And if he gets success, he's going to get inflation. He's going to probably get the bond vigilantes coming out and raising rates. As they already have, they ran past the Federal Reserve and they raised interest rates. One of the things I wanted to tell you about locally that made national news is this HB 2, House Bill 2, which talked about stopping the unisex bathrooms, basically. Governor McCrory lost an election to Roy Cooper, and now we find out that Roy Cooper basically planned this. The reason why we have House Bill 2 in North Carolina is the city of Charlotte did away with men's and women's bathrooms. I'm going to give you the very simple what they did. They did away with men's and women's bathrooms, locker rooms, and showers. And of course, the state legislature said, we're not going to have little boys going to the bathroom with little girls. We're going to have men going to the bathroom with girls. We're not going to have any man walking into any shower or any woman's bathroom. But they, the mainstream press here, the local press, covered all that up. And if you look at, what the Democrats like, this happened at Yale University too, the all-gender restroom. This was one of the signs at the Democratic National Convention in Charlotte. I believe it was in Charlotte. Outside the Democratic National Convention, and this is how they were marking the bathrooms. They think it's a good idea to have all gender restrooms, and showers and all the other stuff. All gender restrooms and showers and all that. And that was at the National Democratic National Convention 2016. So that's where they're going. Yale University did the same thing. All gender bathrooms. And of course, if you say anything about that, you hate her. And here we have that they tried to repeal this. All the Republicans voted yes because right after Roy Cooper was deemed the winner of the North Carolina governor's election, who he won the governorship. Charlotte said, oh, yeah, we'll repeal that bill. Well, McCrory, the sitting governor, tried to get the bill repealed by Charlotte and said, hey, listen, if you repeal it, we'll go ahead and repeal this and we won't lose so much business. But no, they kept it going. And come to find out that Roy Cooper basically planned this with the city of Charlotte. And they basically came up with this idea so he'd have an election issue. And boy, he got one. And then now they don't repeal this. The latest headline, they don't repeal it, and guess who voted against repealing? All the Democrats. All the Democrats didn't repeal it. All the Republicans did. All the Democrats voted no, because they want to make some more hay with unisex bathrooms. And why they didn't just come out and say, listen, they're voting for unisex bathrooms for men and women, and most people didn't understand the real issue. It's not just, just for transgenders and lesbians and gay people and, transgenders, and they just use the bathroom they want to use, and it's just really harm. No, they did away with men's and women's bathrooms. That's what the Charlotte Ordinance did. And that's why the state of North Carolina acted. And then we lost all these basketball games, and Bruce Springsteen canceled his concert, and all that stuff went on, and the NBA is moving the championship or their All-Star game or whatever it is. Corporate America is sticking down. Oh, we want unisex bathrooms. So that's how that's going, and they're still making hay with that. Hey, one other thing I wanted to bring up. Black Lives Matter. Here's a story you didn't hear about in the national press, and it happened in Greensboro, North Carolina. And this guy right here wanted to get out of prison. Right here, his name is Weaver. He wanted to get out of prison, Murad Anthony Weaver. And he wanted to get out of prison so he could go to the funeral of the victim he shot, his 5-year-old brother. He shot, allegedly, his 5-year-old brother. He was out in front of the house with his mother and his 5-year-old brother, and there was an argument between the mother and Weaver. He pulls out a gun, bam! And 30 minutes later, a 5-year-old boy is dead. Black Lives Matter. Nope. Not if black people are killing black people. That's a lie. You saw the MTV video which they polled and said, black lives, it's not that, black lives matter more than others. They just matter. No, not when black people kill black people thousands of times a year. And here is the latest, and you didn't hear a word about this. And I guarantee you, if a white guy was out in front of a house and shot a 5-year-old black boy, and ran off, he ended up turning himself in. He's charged with first-degree murder. I don't know much more about that other than the fact that he's charged with first-degree murder. He turned himself in. He shot his own brother, wanted to go to his funeral. And so that's what I'm saying, the hypocrisy of Black Lives Matter. Nope, Black Lives only matter if you can make hay against whitey. Not in the thousands of times a year that one black person kills another, and here's another. Isn't that a horrific crime? Some guy kills his 5-year-old brother, and you don't hear anything about it. Where's Al Sharpton? Where's Jesse Jackson? Where's Black Lives Matter? You had a 22-year-old shoot a 5-year-old and kill him on the spot. His mother, sadly, was running around the house holding the kid, and they couldn't get him help, and he ended up dying at the hospital. Sad. It's horrible. But you didn't hear about it because you couldn't make any. That Black Lives Matter And the race-baiting Democrats couldn't make hay with that. Just couldn't make any hay with that. A couple of Christmas cards I wanted to bring out. This is from Ben. I think Ben's from Texas. This is sweet. Faith, hope, joy. A little cross on top of the church. Lovely. This is from Lee. Lee's from Georgia. He's from South Georgia. You see the Christmas tree, and then you see the crab and the palm trees over here. And, nice. Warmest wishes. Thanks, Lee. You're sweet. Here are my friends. Ooh, sorry. This is Brian and Pat from, they're from Budapest, but they don't live in Budapest, evidently. That was last year. This year they sent me a new card. I love it. Merry Christmas. I love the Merry Christmas. And you can see the flamingos, in the background here. So I suspect it's Florida. But, Pat and Brian, thank you so much for that. And finally, Catherine Austin Fitz sent me a little a prayer book, 2017. The uptake, one of the big prayers in here is, do unto others as you do unto your others as you do unto yourself. Treat people like you treat yourself. And it's really nice. And listen, folks, I'm not going to have an early Sunday release. Sunday is Christmas. I am not going to put anything out. I'm going to take a few days off. The next time you'll see me is going to be early Wednesday morning with another an interview. I'm going to be trying to put on a few people in the next few weeks that are going to take a look at 2017. I got some very interesting people to come on and do that. Some, by the numbers analysis, and also some people that do some unusual analysis in the next few weeks. So that'll be coming up at the beginning of 2017, basically. And so I just wanted to thank everybody for their Christmas wishes and their support. I really appreciate the community we built here. It's very nice. Listen, don't fear. The evil powers want you to be fearful. They wanted you to stay home. They wanted you not to vote for Donald Trump. They wanted you to think everything was lost. Don't worry, you can't do anything about it. Well, now the mainstream legacy propaganda media has been totally exposed. They're going to pay for this. They're never going to recover. And you don't have to be fearful. And don't be fearful. Action cures anxiety. Take action. Prepare yourself mentally, physically, above all, spiritually. Prepare yourself and fear not. God the Father is in charge. And I'm going to tell you, and I've been saying it and writing it as many times as I can. I've been saying it out in public to everybody I can. I'm going to tell you, have a Merry Christmas and fear not. Don't let them make you fearful. Don't let them take away your chi. Don't let them take anything from you. Fear not. And the Donald Trump being elected shows you that God's will was done. It was done. And he's going to be inaugurated. He will be inaugurated. We got rough times ahead. There's no question about that. But I'd much rather have him than anybody else. Because, you want somebody who can handle the ship when it starts rubbing on the rocks. And we are going to rub on the rocks. Listen, I'm hopeful. Don't get me wrong. And I want things to go well. But with that, I just wanted to tell you thanks for supporting USA Watchdog. And have yourself a very Merry Christmas.